Here we got this tweet from Rep. Eric Swalwell. He says, breaking. Rep. Byron Donalds admits on the readout that McCarthy is kicking me, Adam Schiff, and Ilhan off our committees purely out of vengeance.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sure it's out of vengeance, not the fact that you slept with the Chinese spy and she married her brother, right?
Yeah. That's Fang.
Okay, fair point. But I'll accept vengeance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm here for it. It feels good.
Either one is fine with me, man. You're a piece of garbage.
It's entertaining to see him complain.
The amount of entitlement. It's our council, or it's our, what do they call it? Committee.
Whatever.
No, dude, it's the American People's Committee.
Whatever prevents him from dropping nukes on Americans that don't turn in their AR-15s, I'm fine with.
Or having sex
guys.
with more Chinese spies.
Fang had to work really hard. Okay, this is the she really loses here more than anyone else here.
How did this happen? Eric Swalwell's on the a House Intelligence Committee, and he's dating a Chinese spy who's harvesting intelligence from him.
Fang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
Is it confirmed that she was extracting info from the guy? Do you know?
I'm not entirely sure if it's confirmed. I mean, but he was dating and having sexual relations with a Chinese spy, so I can only imagine that he was.
And Adam Schiff lied all the time about the intelligence they actually had.
Adam Schiff should be removed from office just because of the
just because of his neck.
Just because he was going maybe just because he was trying to get people banned from Twitter. He was sending emails to Twitter trying to infringe on people's First Amendment right.
He released a private citizen's phone records.
Yeah, disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
Creepy.
Well, he got a journalist actually suspended and permanently banned off of Twitter as well. The guy that works for Real Clear Investigations, right?
Mm-hmm. It's unconscionable that politicians behave like that, and it's extremely disheartening that we're such a tribal society right now that we can't all say, okay, that's a violation of liberal principles, and you can't be in a position of power anymore. That should be something that all Americans say, but that's not happening anymore.
Yeah. The mistake is that they say Twitter's a private company. So if I walked into the Apple headquarters and I started screaming, they could kick me out because it's a private company. But it's a different kind of private structure in that it's a social network.
No, it's not, because Adam Schiff is as a representative of the government. Getting a hold of Twitter saying ban this person, that is prohibited by the First Amendment.
So could
the government cannot tell an intermediary to violate someone's rights.
But could they say, hey, Tim Cook at Apple, don't let Ian Crossland into the Apple headquarters? Could Adam Schiff do that? And then Tim Cook's like, okay, you can't.
No, because it's a violation of your rights.
But I don't have a right to go into the Apple headquarters.
They don't have the right to tell someone else to violate your right. You have the right to move. You have the right to engage in commerce. The rights that an individual has are infinite. You have the right to get up and leave. You have the right to go to the bathroom. These are all rights that you have. You have because you're a free person. So if Tim Cook doesn't have a problem with you going into his business and you don't have a problem, and the government says, Tim Cook, don't let that guy in your business, the government saying that applies significant pressure because it's the government. The government has the monopoly on violence. So if they say that to Tim Cook, and Tim Cook says, well, I want him to come in and buy stuff, but the government said I can't, so I can't let you in, Ian. That's the government using their influence on Tim Cook to violate your rights, and that is expressly prohibited. I don't know the court cases, but I know that the Supreme Court has found that the government cannot do those kind of things.
The government can't use the private sector as a means to suppress your rights.
But do I have a right to go into the Apple headquarters? I don't think that's
if Tim Cook doesn't want you to, or
you do. You
do
have a right. If a building like the Apple Store, well, she's at Apple headquarters. If we'll use the Apple Store as an example. If it's open to the public, you do.
So any private company, any little shop on Main Street.
Anything that's a public accommodation that allows people to enter, you can enter, and they can give you a warning to leave. Then they can call the police. The police give you a warning. Then the police can remove you or arrest you. But if a corporation is running a publicly available business, you have a right to enter that business.
Yeah, and
then they have a right to tell you to leave.
If you remember a couple years ago, I was even saying these are not private companies. They're working, colluding together with government, working on the behests of government, implementing a lot of their policies that the government wants them to implement. And they parade themselves around like, look, we're a private entity. We're a private business. We can do what we want. No, your tax dollars are literally being used for FBI agents to sit on social media to say you cannot have speech here. You cannot express your opinion here. And also, when you look at the start of a lot of these companies, they started with connections not only to the government, but there was a lot of grants, there was a lot of incentives that allowed them to become as powerful as they are right now, where they have a sort of monopoly on the industry and they dominate everyone, where competitors can't even compete with them because of the unfair advantage the government gave them during the beginning of their start, which I think is important to note here, which also tells me this has nothing to do with any private entity here. This is a quasi-public one.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the Civil War.
That collapsed and has myocarditis.
If we're entering this period where in Congress they're doing a tit-for-tat vengeance, that Nancy Pelosi boots people off committees because she doesn't like them. Mm-hmm. So then McCarthy comes in and boots people off committees because he's like, okay, this is a game we're going to play. I mean, we're heading to a point where elections are determined by who can collect the most ballots possible, not who actually has the best ideas. Yep. Ballot harvest and get the biggest number and you're good to go. And power will be wielded exclusively by each side for their own benefit. Mm-hmm. I would expect the Republicans to do exactly this. I expect the Republicans to impeach Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. But of course, the Democrats started it. And of course, they're not going to stop. So if we're at this point and the bifurcation just keeps going, where do we end up?
The biggest split you've ever seen? I mean, I think we're already at the point where the country is divided like we've never seen before, but it's just going to keep going and keep going. But I've always said that the right, because the right's always been the party of defensive. So it's nice to actually, it's refreshing to see that they're actually taking the offensive at least somewhat nowadays. But I mean, it's like Saul Alinsky. The left literally operates off of rules for radicals. I mean, that's how they play. You blame others of what you're guilty of. I mean, the whole 9 yards. So now that the right is actually doing it, it's just going to keep going until something finally breaks. And this is where I will agree, eventual civil war or whatever you want to word it as.
Did you always think that?
No. I mean, over time, one of the reasons why I got into the industry was because I saw that the Republicans were just playing defensive over and over again. I was like, okay, we need to fix this. And I was an activist before a journalist, so I painted Baby Lives Matter murals outside of abortion clinics. Pissed a lot of people off, but it was like a spin-off of BLM, right? I was like, they're doing it, I'll do it, push back. And then, over time, as I became more radicalized or more rational is what I would say, it just kind of evolved my thought process, and now here we are.
I would agree that if it continues on the path that it's going without intercession, that we would see some sort of physical conflict.
I mean, we've already seen physical conflict. I mean,
you were right there when Ashley Babbitt got shot.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, that's as physical as it gets. I mean, that was government sanctioned murder. I mean, the government's going to murder people on national television over and over again, and nobody says a thing. I mean, there's no repercussions for it. They literally dropped all charges. They didn't actually investigate Michael Byrd after the shooting. I mean, they did a faux investigation and said, oh yeah, he's cleared. All the police violence that took place on January 6th is cleared. So it's like, how far can you continue to go? How much government sanctioned murder, because that's what it was, can you actually tolerate until something finally breaks?
Did that change you watching her get shot?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think about it every single day, and I've been thankful to really get close with her family. Her family is like my family now. Aaron Babbitt, Mickey, they're absolutely amazing people. It's not what the media says. Ashley Babbitt wasn't some disorganized terrorist that wanted to go and take down the government. She was actually trying to stop people within that room. She punched Zachary Lama in the face and pulled him backwards, and then she went through the window to try and stop this crowd. But you never hear about that.
Wow.
You also said that there was surveillance footage in the Capitol showing the incident that also can't be found.
Yep.
And then you also told us something about people being near her not being prosecuted as well. Can you get into any of this stuff?
Yeah, I can get into it all. So the people that actually breached the west side of the Capitol, none of them have been prosecuted. I mean, the ones that actually they're on video throwing 2x4s through the window, breaking these, and then they hop in and then open the doors from the inside to allow everybody else in. There's one in particular that I can think of off the top of my head. He's wearing all red, has a red hat on, and they actually somehow ended up very conveniently in the room with Ashley Babbitt right as she was being shot, right around Ashley Babbitt as this took place. And they were on, just like Ray Epps, they were put on the FBI wanted list and then almost immediately taken off right after. But you never hear about any of them.
What's going on?
One could ask that, and they probably should, but it's inconvenient to the narrative. And even if you do ask, we've seen with what Ray Epps has accomplished. He's literally on video on January 5th multiple times telling people to go into the Capitol on multiple occasions, and then on January 6th doing the exact same thing. There's even a video of him holding a big Trump banner and actually pushing it into police alongside other people. But, he's Adam Kinzinger's and the committee's absolute darling, and they don't want to talk about him. They release the transcripts, and it literally says that, hey, I helped organize this, and he's on video doing so. But you're not allowed to talk about it, and if you do, you're labeled a conspiracy theorist.
You say there's transcripts of Ray Epps saying that he helped organize January 6th?
Yeah, I believe, I don't know which congressman that actually released it originally, but it's literally in the transcripts that he is talking, I believe it's to his son, I'm not 100% sure on it,
Yeah,
but
I think
he,
right.
he organized it. I mean, he was one of the
says
organizers.
He said he orchestrated it.
He is the person that I followed to the Capitol while Trump was speaking. We arrived at the Capitol. I followed Ray Epps' group. I thought it was suspicious. He basically started rallying people and saying, hey, 10 minutes, we're going to the Capitol. We're going to the Capitol. And I'm sitting there like, okay, this is really weird. Trump supporters going to the Capitol on Trump's very last speech of the year, his last speech of his presidency, the Save America speech, is suspicious. And, I followed them. Then the first barrier goes down. The second barrier goes down, which that's the famous video of Ray Epps, whispering into Ryan Samsel's ear, and then the barrier goes down conveniently. So I was literally alongside Ray Epps. He is the one that led the first initial group on that west side and breached those two barriers. But then something that isn't talked about is after those first two barriers were breached, you had about 6 officers responsible for stopping hundreds of thousands of people. And there was the initial, I would call it the riot zone, or it was where they hold the inauguration every year. And the crowd of thousands of people just started to form. I mean, there's mothers, there's children, people from all walks of life. Everyone's just standing there. I was already deep in the crowd, and it was peaceful for about 20 to 30 minutes. And then a concussion grenade flies over my head and explodes into the crowd. And then it just started to erupt. So literally, it was a police riot, I would say.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.